Much talked about mental health conversation kickstart about 18 minutes later this afternoon, but it's all part of the amateur delays that you should be expecting when you're dealing with a guy that is not tech savvy but is still interested in doing what he can do for humanity and for this race. My name is Mack, larbi, Executive Director of the Larbi Foundation, and I'm joined this afternoon by the very beautiful Dr. Sarah Duncan, a prodigy student of University of Ghana, Legon. She was in Okponglo. For so those of you guys that in Okponglo, you got an Okpo mate here. I'm a Legon Hall guy. And so before I even go further, let me introduce the people behind this beautiful setup. My wife, Jasmine Larbi, she's right there. And we have our main man, Femi. I can't pronounce his whole name. He's a Nigerian Jollof, okay? So, you know, you guys got to understand it as it is. But this afternoon, we're going to be talking about mental health, and we want to know the various sides, aspects of mental health. A lot of times, when we say mental health, people think it's the guy that is naked on the street, dirty, eating from the gutters. In Ghana, we say, Wabodam, that guy is a lunatic. But I believe the mental health goes far beyond these attributes or descriptions that we have. This afternoon, I have a very seasoned individual that has done research work and has a PhD in the field of psychology at psychiatry, and she is in the person of Dr. Sarah Duncan. If I say I'm going to read her story, we'll be out of hours for this program, and so I will say just give a brief introduction of her, because for the years she's put in, I think she deserves some accolades. And so she is Dr. Sarah Duncan. I can't read all these alphabets. She got a LCSWM, and I know that's Masters in Social Work. She's got a PSC, and she is an international psychologist, a clinical social worker, a certified mental health first aider. Dr. Duncan obtained her bachelor's and master's social work degree from the University of Ghana and Governor State University, respectively. Dr. Duncan received a PhD in psychology from the Chicago School of Professional Psychology, where she completed field consulting experiences with indigenous populations in Germany and the Philippines. I will stop right here, and then I will invite Dr. Duncan to the microphone. Dr. Duncan, welcome to the Larbi Foundation, and we are glad to have you here to have this all-important conversation about mental health. As you're aware, the month of May is for mental health awareness, and we are taking our part and taking the charge and playing a role in sensitizing people on mental health. Welcome to the Larbi Foundation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Larbi, for the kind introduction. And to all the Larbi Foundation participants who are on the Zoom call and might be joining us later, thank you so much for joining us to discuss a very important topic that cannot be overemphasized. To the Larbi Foundation team, thank you also for making this happen this afternoon.
All right. So without further ado, we have very limited time because we're testing all of these things out. In future, we'll be able to extend hours and everything. So Dr. Duncan, what is mental health, and how does it differ from mental illness?
Okay, thank you so much. So for our opening introduction, mental health is basically a state of emotional, social, and psychological well-being. There's a difference between mental health and mental illness. We look at it as a continuum or a spectrum. So if you have very good mental health, we say you are in a state of good mental health, meaning you are very resilient, you are able to overcome stresses, you are able to cope to things that happen to you, randomly scheduled. And on the other spectrum is mental health disorders or illness. So basically this is saying that you are having difficulties with cognitive impairments, you are struggling to cope with various mental health disorders, which could be depression, anxiety, or the psychiatric disorders as we know. So going back, mental health is a continuum. You know, on one end, you are able to cope. you are able to tolerate stress. In the middle, I would say, is where you are able to express your emotions, the daily emotions of, smiling, being happy, being sad, being anxious or depressed. And then when your symptoms get so exacerbated that you lose control or the ability to cope with whatever you're going through, then we're saying you are having some kind of mental illness. And it's worth to note that when you get to the mental ill state, there's very observed or significant clinical impairment as to how you function. Okay, are you able to go to work? Are you able to get up and take care of your business? So when it gets to that stage, we say one has or is exhibiting some mental health disorders or challenges.
Okay, so at what point in this conversation would, let's say, the daily day-to-day activities in a home, for example, fall under mental health? Let's say that you wake up, you're stressed by your children. You wake up, you're stressed by your husband, your wife. The pressures of bills, going in and out, will it fall under mental health?
Okay, so yes. So I'll take depression or sadness, for example. We all can be sad. We all can be backed down by various life stressors or triggers. However, if you are having difficulty to get up in the morning to take care of your business or to take care of your children, like you mentioned, it's hard for you to get out of bed because you are losing sleep. You are not able to go to sleep at night. It's hard for you to get up and go to work, to get income or respond to your employment or vocational capabilities. So when people notice that you are withdrawing, say for example you were a very social person, now you're not participating in social events, your community events.
Because I've withdrawn from a lot of social engagements.
No, but I mean, that is, you're not withdrawing because of a clinically significant impairment, right? Maybe you're withdrawing for one reason, but if you lose interest in the things that you used to enjoy, the word is enjoy. If you enjoy reading now, you're not reading because of things that are on your mind or impressing on your mind, then we'll say, there's some clinical significance or changes going on with you. If you are irritable, if you are angry, you are having crying spells. You feel, and to the extreme, even if you feel like, hurting yourself, if you're having suicidal ideations and thoughts. So those are like the spectrum of things or behaviors that we look out for somebody exhibiting some kind of depressive disorder or anxiety disorder.
Depressive disorder or anxiety disorder. So, a young man is in college, third year. He falls in love with a young, beautiful lady. Just before his final exams, the girl breaks up with him because she realizes that the relationship is not going anywhere. This guy cannot wake up to study, he cannot participate in what will we describe this person as?
Yeah, so definitely there's issue going on. One thing about mental health is your ability to learn or have clarity in your mind and thought. So this young person, unfortunately, from the romantic breakup, is experiencing some intense emotions that he is not able to overcome. When we are judging if somebody has mental health, we look at your coping strategies. Right. So once you cross over or you become overwhelmed with your coping strategies, then we say, okay, the things that you used to utilize or cope, you're not able to use those mechanisms anymore, so you need help. Okay. Right. And that help can, come in different forms. But the basic thing is he is at a threshold where his existing mental or coping capacities are no longer working for the particular situation that the individual is facing.
All right. So let me create another scenario because I like to dig into family and the social setups of our environment. So Mr. A is married. Mr. A had a well-paying job. All of a sudden, he got laid off. He got laid off. He's got surmountable bills. He's got kids. He's got a wife. Probably the wife was a stay-at-home mom. Or the wife was working, but that's not. He needs that extra income to be able to keep it going. Now, Mr. A is resorted to drinking, okay, and aggression, because he doesn't have that income and that source of support for his family. So he's drinking and he's drinking excessively. He's become very irritable, screaming at his children, beating on the wife. Now, under what category of mental health challenge would we put Mr. A under these circumstances?
Okay. All right. For any diagnosable mental health disorder or illness, there should be a thorough and extensive and comprehensive assessment. You mentioned that he is drinking because now he's not able to cope. So substance use or alcohol use or illicit substance use is one of the indicators that tells any clinician or even family around that definitely he is using to deal, like we refer to, right? So before we can, diagnose Mr. There are some things that are obvious. He lost his job. Anybody who has lost a job and doesn't have any resources definitely is going through some things because we have to live, right? If he is losing sleep, if he is crying, we can say he's depressed, but we need extensive and in-depth information. From what you have described, something has changed. And when we go back to lifespan development, for like young, middle-aged, or even families with young kids, vocation is one of the most important things, right? So there's definitely a loss, and he is, responding to that loss through the drinking of alcohol. The possibilities can be, varied. Adjustment disorders. Nobody wants to adjust to, ill health or sudden unexpected losses like loss of employment. So those are key things that tells you that he is going to go through something, but then he needs help at the initial state to curtail the debilitating effects that can ensue from his substance use. One thing about mental health treatment also is that you're not treating the person. You're treating and also responding to things that is going on. So when I say extensive or comprehensive assessment, we're looking at, how you are dealing with what is going on. But the primary thing is we need to figure out how he can get employment, because he needs those things in order to survive, right? So as you're treating the brain or the mind, you need to provide resources, which is also one of the challenges in mental health treatment, right? It has to go hand in hand with resources, right? He's going to be well if he gets a job, right? But we're telling him, do not drink, do this A, B, and C, go according to this plan of care, you set up goals, but if the basic and the root problem is still existing, we're not going to go anywhere, right? So those has to go hand in hand.
Now, let me switch quickly to grief and loss. The loss of a child to a parent, the loss of a wife, or a husband, a spouse for that matter. Within that period where there is a loss, where would we put that person's mental health if that person is grieving beyond the threshold for normal grieving, or if there's any such thing as normal grieving?
There isn't any definition for normal grieving because people go through losses differently. There is acclaimed stages of, grieving, which is denial. Initially, you're going to deny what is going on. And then anger, when you're upset at things, that happened to the relative that was lost. You bargain with the stage, like, okay, now he's gone. How am I, or he or she is gone. How am I going to, deal with that? So the stages is not fluid, right? When we say, and we need to make this distinction. There is normal grief, where you cry, you think about the person, you have memories, right? You can laugh about those memories, or you can still stay sad about those memories. When grieving extends beyond, now this person is clinically depressed. He's not thinking about the lost child with memories, but now it's impacting his or her functioning, right? So there's a difference between normal grieving and then somebody being clinically depressed as a result of grieving, right? So like I mentioned, you would have to, see what is going on with that person clinically and determine what is normal and what is not normal.
Okay, let me jump quickly to what the effect of mental health has on lifespan development. What you got to say about that?
Right. So for lifespan development, we can start, with infancy. When children are not able to receive the care that they need, if there are a whole lot of issues regarding self-neglect in the home, substance abuse, children being witnesses to violence, or in summation, what we refer to as adverse childhood experiences, a child has a propensity of developing mental health disorders. Some could be again, the depression, the anxiety, separation anxiety. There's a lot of basic mistrust issues in children who are not grounded in a very nurturing family. When we move on from, childhood to, young adult, middle-aged children, bullying at school, a child who is struggling academically, when we're moving from elementary school through to young adulthood, you gave an example of somebody who has lost their job. Workplace violence can also put somebody at risk at developing mental health or depressive. They are retired, they are no longer, working. Self-esteem issues now because they're not able to financially take care of families. People disrespect them, the social isolation that comes with growing older. And for older adults who live in countries where their support system is not based on families, but in institutional facilities like nursing homes, there's the issue of adjustment. Somebody leaving their home to go be in a very structured environment, like a nursing home or a supportive living facility, presents with psychological challenges for them. People have social anxieties, people are having panic disorders. So that is the group for the anxiety disorders. For depressive disorders, a lot of cognitive or significant impairment in people feeling sad. When somebody loses pleasure in the things that they enjoy to do, those can be characterized under the depressive disorders. And also further, we would talk about the mood disorders, which a lot more people are very much aware of bipolar disorders, where there's a rapid cycle between extreme catatonia or depressive disorders and then manic stages. So manic stages is characterized where individuals have very increased energy. There's a significant disturbance in sleep. People engage in very compulsive behaviors, some to the extent of having very unsafe sexual behaviors.
I was going to ask that question, but since
gambling, rapid cycling, shopping, addictions, right. So those fall under the bipolar disorders. Then we can also move on to the psychotic disorders, where an individual loses touch with reality. They have very irrational beliefs and delusional thoughts. You see people actively hallucinating, whether audio, tactile, or visual, right? So there's a significant impairment in their rationality, right? So then from the psychotic disorders, we can move on to neurocognitive and or antisocial behavior. So you have children or even adults who have, attention deficit hyperactive disorders, conduct disorders, oppositional disorders. So for those categories, individuals have very significant difficulties or challenges following rules, respecting the human rights of others, right? So basically, those are the broader types of mental health disorders.
Okay.
That.
So the guy that is. Majority of our listeners are college students, university students, and so and then we have some homemakers, wives, husbands on the line. But I want to delve a little deeper into the students that are on the platform right now as we speak. At what stage does mental health and seeking help and the stigma that is associated with it becomes okay for one to be able to say, hey, I need help, rather than hiding and trying to deal with the situation themselves? Right,
thank you. It's a very important question you raise, Mack. What we all have to realize that we all do have mental health. Yes. Mental health is just not for people who are presented with mental illness. We all have mental health as part of our total and physical health, right? So as much as it is very normal for anybody who is sick to seek medical care for physiological conditions like diabetes, hypertension, and a whole lot of other medical conditions we have, so should it be normalized for anybody to pay attention to their mental health. The burden of disability that mental health imposes would absolutely be increased, or no, would absolutely be decreased if mental health services are sought early when someone presents with any kind of mental health challenges. So for our students on the platform, I would say you don't seek help when everything is going on well for you. Even if everything, your ducks are in a row, you are engaging in your community, you are living, you are motivated to do the things that you love to do or push to do, you still need to pay attention to your mental health. Because as it is, stress on a daily basis, stress is okay. For our flight and fear responses, a little bit of stress is okay. Going back to our times on campus, exams in Fojo presents some kind of stress.
IAs are coming down, students on the campus.
Right. So, that anticipation of having to do your finals will present some stress. And you being prepared to, you being academically prepared, you've studied. However, you are still, in some kind of anticipation for that. So a healthy level of stress is okay. However, when stress builds up over a continuum, it also creates some chemical imbalances in our bodies. So that is where, you feel fatigued, you feel tired, you don't want to get out of bed, you feel helpless, hopeless, all those negative symptoms. So mental health should be a continuous. It should be part of our physical health. As you take care of your physicals every year, for those of us, you have to take care of that one too. Utilizing your coping skills. Going back to the question or the aspect of stigma, we need to normalize it. Like you opened up in your introduction, mental health is not the schizophrenic person who is, responding to internal stimuli on the street. We need to pay attention. We need to normalize it that it's okay, even if you're not, doing okay.
It's okay to be not okay.
Yeah, not to be okay. Right. And also, we also have to pay attention to the language that we use.
Okay.
For those of us who have the, I wouldn't say advantage, for those of us who have traveled outside or wherever, when it gets so cold here, or even spring in Chicago, 1 minute is raining, the other minute is something cold. Right, it's right. People have, this is what? Bipolar weather.
Yeah.
That's not a healthy way, no.
You see your lifestyle.
Exactly.
You behave like a Chi-town weather.
Exactly. Exactly. Bipolar is a very serious mental health condition. So, and one time I was working in Pilsen, I saw this hidden company called Bipolar Weather something, really. So we should be very mindful of our language, and our responses to people who have mental health.
I think that because of stigmatization, a lot of people are suffering in silence. Now, what is the word out there, and what are the areas that they can seek help? How do they come out without feeling ashamed, betrayed, or, oh, I thought that guy was okay, but look at him, We want to see the guy in the street before we know the guy has a problem. Meanwhile, the guy is crying and hanging on to his pillow every night. That woman is out there crying and refusing to live a normal life just because of conditions, but there is no one to hear her out or hear him out. And for that reason, they're suffering and suffering in silence. Now, how do we destigmatize these conditions and bring them out to be able to seek available help?
Okay. So two things. If somebody comes out to say, hey, I'm at the brink of my coping skills. I'm suffering, I'm crying, I'm going through this. I would say for anybody listening on this call and wherever the stream will go after this live session, that person is very brave. Because it's it takes a lot for somebody to experience a challenge. I don't want to say a mental health weakness, right? So for that, the onus of responsibility goes onto our friends, your family, right? Mental health starts from home. If we normalize mental health challenges, if you're crying, you're not shutting down your child that, hey, you know, get over it, stop crying. You know, we don't talk about it. We don't get depressed. There's not even a name for anxiety in Ghana. Like, you know, that's how serious. Right, you know, but these are clinical conditions. You know,
professional evaluation. So if some pastor is telling you, come and let me pray, and they're laying hands and anointing oil and putting brooms in water and slapping you, or they eventually going to call you witchcraft or a witch or a wizard or whatever. You don't want to get to that condition. I have just about 8 minutes to end the session. If you have any questions, if you're listening to me or if you are looking at me live, if you have any questions, you can type them up. If you have a question, please, we have got about 7 minutes to go. Like I said, this is a test program. We want to see how best we can do it. Dr. Duncan is here. But if somebody wants to seek help, I know you're a professional. You have a practice that you do. Can you tell us a bit about what you do in your wellness center and how they can reach you under these circumstances so that they can seek help if it's even over the phone? Let's talk about that so that if any questions come, we will take them. If not, then we are well on our way to wrapping it up in 7 minutes. So
okay.
Let's go with that.
Absolutely. So my private practice is Dunn Creek Wellness. Outside of my practice, I work with veterans who suffer from PTSD and other range of clinical disorders. If anybody wants to reach out to me, basically they can. You know, it's going to be a pro bono. I don't really charge for.
Hey, you heard that? She says pro bono.
For people,
it is free.
It's a paid practice, but for purposes of anybody on this call, they are able to reach out.
Reiterate the point she just made. Or say, say who can help her. If you're looking for boy, reach out to Dunn Creek Wellness, Larbi Foundation, and just say Dr. Duncan. And she is on our Facebook group as well.
So you can post my details on the Facebook group, right? And they can reach out to me via WhatsApp for anybody calling outside of the United States. So yeah.
Can I give you a Ghana number out?
Yeah, you can.
The US number, which one?
708.
Okay, so Doc, you say it yourself.
Right, so I can be reached at 708-926-5764.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Right, the number again is 708-926-5764. But I wanted to make a comment on the mental health stigma and culture, okay. Right? So I believe in indigenous psychology. I believe in the relevance of our cultural and spiritual disposition, because actually mindfulness is one of the evidence-based interventions. So we don't want to do away with a person's spirituality or religious beliefs. I believe that if somebody practices any kind of religion, right, be it Christian, be in a traditional religion, and you have some kind of mental health problems, right, and your traditionalist is asking you to go bathe in the river or whatever, go on and do that. However, seek professional help. If it's medication that you need to be on, do that. You can do, you can combine that. It should be a fusion of treatment, because we don't want to discount.
I don't want to cut you, but I have a question, and I know I have just about 4 minutes to go. He says that a lot of people confide in friends. This is a question coming from a guy by name Moro Abdul Jamil. He says that people confide in friends seeking help, and somebody is confiding. How does he speak with this person without the person feeling bad? Because he can see that this person needs help mentally. So how does he approach the subject, and how does he do it without overreaching, overstepping his boundaries?
Right. So that's a great question. You have touched on psychological response to mental health. So you respectfully approach the individual or your friend. You tell them that you are coming out of a space of concern, right? They don't need to let you know what exactly is going on, but you can tell them what you are observing in them that informed your decisions to reach out to them, right? And again, you offer resources if you have it, but you reaching out to the person also communicates to the other person or your friend that, hey, somebody is paying attention. You know, I'm not just withdrawn like you've withdrawn. I'm expecting that your friends should reach out to you, Mac, to say, hey, we haven't seen you in a while. What's going on? And it's up to you to say that, hey, you know, I'm good, you know, right? I'm just saying, right? I'm just saying. But if we reach out to people and communicate to them the changes that we've seen in them, it also tells them, oh, you know what? I'm going through this, but some people are noticing, you know, I'm withdrawn. Somebody is noticing. I believe they would appreciate that. If they are not able to share because of confidentiality, that is why it is absolutely important that you reach out to a professional. If you don't want to go dabbling, you know, telling your friends, they've reached out, they've shown you support. However, you know, they need to direct you to a professional person. Right.
Thank you. On that note, can we make a distinction, a final distinction between mental health and mental illness so that our listeners can not rush to judgment now that we are being informed educatively? Can we go on that route? What is mental health and mental illness? How do we differentiate the two? Because I believe we all have mental health and we all have our issues, but some are extreme, some are not. So how do we make that distinction? And then in about 2 minutes, we can wrap it up.
Okay, so like I mentioned before, we all do have mental health. Babies to older adults, we all do have mental health. Mental health is a state, right, where you are psychologically safe, right? You are psychologically safe because you are able to rebound or respond, like you are managing your emotions. You are in the traffic driving, right? Traffic is so backed up. You are not losing control. You are able to deal with that traffic situation, okay? You are in a store. Somebody just cut in front of you. You're not going to go out of control like, hey, you know, trying to give them break. Right. You're not pulling triggers. You're not shaking cans. So that is where you are able to control. You are managing your emotions. You are being triggered, all right, but you are able to tolerate that stress. You lost your job. You are able to step back and say, hey, I didn't lose my job. What else can I do to be able to, restore my functioning? And then on the other extreme is where you are going, you notice yourself that you are being very short. You are very short-tempered. You are crying excessively. Now you listen to your songs, it's not working. You've prayed, it's not working. You've done everything that you know to help you, but this time those coping skills are not working. Then we say you have a clinically significant mental health or psychological challenge. That is mental illness, right?
Right. So, on that note, to our viewers across the globe, Ghana, and the rest of the world, I want to say thank you very much to Sarah Duncan for this informative and educative session. To our camera, behind-the-scene crew, Jasmine and Femi, man, we love you guys, man. You did a great job. Hey, to all members of the Larbi Foundation, we really appreciate your presence in you taking your evening, afternoon off to listen to this all educative, informative session. On behalf of myself and the executive signing off, my name is Mack, the executive director of the Larbi Foundation. We would come back again. We have a program coming off in Ghana on the 7th of June. For the Facebook Live, guys, we have the maternal and mental health. We have the maternal mental health that is coming off on the 7th of June at Kodoku Healthcare Center, and that's going to deal with maternal health and mental health. We want to talk about postpartum depression and its effect on mothers, pregnant women, and all of that, and the children. We want to talk about their journey. And for those of you that will be watching, we also have the Larbi Foundation Pregnant Care Packages. They are bags with and they contain essentials for every mother that will be attending the program, and that's a free gift from the Larbi Foundation. Every mother that is registered participant is going to be receiving one of that care package from the foundation. This is coming off at the Kotoku Healthcare Center in Ghana, Accra, suburb of Accra, on the 7th of June, the year 2023, from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. But it is for only registered pregnant women. Thank you very much for tuning in. We appreciate your presence. And thank you very much, Dr. Duncan. Thank you so much.